Hey everyone, Tim Muldoon back for day 15 of Ignatian mindfulness. And in this reflection, I would like to talk about two themes, namely meditation and prayer. And I'm talking about this one to especially those of you maybe for whom prayer is not a regular practice. Those of you for whom it is, might gain something as well. But I want to share a few images that might be helpful on both of those themes, meditation and also prayer. So first, meditation, what is it? Well, I think for certainly some Christians that word may seem a little suspect because it maybe sounds too much like something that's done in other traditions. I myself don't find that a difficult term at all. To meditate on something is just to attend to it very carefully. And certainly we see that theme in various places in the Christian tradition. One that comes to mind, by the way, is not from Ignatius, but rather from Julian of Norwich, the wonderful anchoress in the English tradition, who once observed that the entire universe is in this nut that she was looking at, just a hazelnut that she was staring at in her hand. And I'm imagining this woman just looking at it and recognizing that it was lovingly created by the hands of God. And so meditating on that hazelnut was for her an almost mystical experience. So if we take that idea, and again, whether we're coming at this from a place of faith or even just mental health, right? The practice of meditation is a focusing exercise. It's about recognizing that, our minds can go in 1,400 directions under these weird circumstances, and that to focus on one thing, and whether it's a hazelnut or whether it is our own breathing, which is a wonderful exercise, meditation can help us to remove distractions. Now, quick insider baseball. I was trained in sacramental theology in the Catholic tradition, and one of the principles that comes out of this tradition is the idea that God's grace just flows, and the only thing that gets in the way is when we put up barriers to it, obstructions, if you want. So I see meditation as a practice that helps us to remove obstructions to God's grace. So take away the things, the anxieties, the random thoughts, the 147 stimuli that we kind of thrust into our brain by the various screens and other things that interrupt us. Meditation is a good thing. I certainly teach my students some basic exercises, breathing exercises I've already mentioned. Another one is to simply look at your body, close your eyes, but look at your body and pay attention to where there are sources of muscle tension, for example. Heck, in my coaching days, I used to tell athletes to do this exercise because it's good to just become in tune with the way that one's body moves and the way that it can be used for whatever end we are pursuing. Okay, so all of that is about meditation. Meditation is a good thing. It certainly exists in other traditions. Wonderful. Let's meditate. That's a good thing. It is a human activity by which we can remove distractions, focus ourselves, and enjoy some physical goods, some goods to our health, mental goods. That's a good thing. Now, prayer is a little bit different. Now, quick parenthesis. Ignatius himself said in his spiritual exercises, find whatever position you want to for prayer. We don't have to sort of be in this very kind of precise position of prayer. I myself get a little bit amused when people call for prayer and we sort of, straighten up and, put our heads down and get ready for praying. That's not really necessary. Prayer, in the most basic language, is conversation with God. And that phrase, by the way, comes from St. John Chrysostom in the 5th century. So, an ancient, way of just thinking about prayer is putting ourselves in God's presence. The only difference between meditation and prayer is that meditation is something we do within ourselves. Prayer is something that is directed toward God. And for those of you maybe that aren't accustomed to the practice of prayer, I would just invite you to consider it as a way of opening ourselves to something beyond ourselves, putting ourselves in a posture of receptivity. Open hands, if you want, is a wonderful way to begin in prayer. And even those of us maybe that have some experience in the practice of prayer can remind ourselves that, we can get kind of in habits, and sometimes those habits may kind of take us in directions that maybe don't lead us to the kind of openness that ultimately we want to have in the presence of a God who is, in the words of Rainer Maria Rilke, the ever greater one. It's a wonderful image. One last one for your consideration, especially those of you that are not accustomed to the practice of prayer. I'm very struck by an image that I came across that suggests that God is like the x to be solved for in algebra. And by the way, this image is an ancient one. There's what's known as the cloud of unknowing and other mystical works that really did treat God not as something we can easily grasp or handle. And that, by the way, also comes from a figure like St. Augustine, who said, if you understand it, it's not God. God is what is to be discovered, or more precisely, who is to be discovered. So I'll suggest in closing that there's kind of a natural connection, certainly in Christian tradition, between meditation, which is a human activity, and prayer, which is an openness to God, an openness to the mystery that is God. And I think the connection is this. In meditation, we remove distractions. And in removing distractions, we are putting ourselves in the place of being open to a God who may want to reveal God's own self to us. So I leave you with that thought, and I wish you a happy day 15 of Ignatian mindfulness. I will see you next time.